Today on my engineering projects, I'm going to show you how I made this heavy-duty box to transport my Skywatcher Maksutov Newtonian, which weighs about 35 pounds and is very, very large. Now, originally when I bought the telescope, my idea was to use the original box that it came in. But to my surprise, this box was almost 6 feet long and really, really tall and just completely oversized, and it had no handles. And so I decided to build something that I could put in my motorhome that was small, heavy duty, and would fully protect the telescope. Now I am completely out of brand new lumber, and so I'm trying to use up everything that I could find. And so I had this old box that I made, and it was painted white on one side. And I thought I would repurpose it, cut it down, and use the existing plywood for this new project. Now I like to keep things simple, so the simplest thing to do is to use corner blocks and screw into the corner blocks from the outside. And for a round telescope, that works great because on the corners you have a round surface, so you can put very large corner blocks in. So here I am cutting all the plywood to size, and then I'll show you how I put it together. So I've made these blocks, these corner blocks, and originally I was going to glue them. But I think what I'll do is just screw them in and just hold this together with screws. I think it'll work just fine. The telescope only weighs about 35 pounds, so I'm not real worried. First I'm going to pre-drill and countersink, especially on the bottom. And this way the screw heads will go down, and then when you're sliding it on the carpet or something, they're not going to catch. Put the sides in like this, and so what I need to do is measure a block to go on the inside of both of those. Now, even with the telescope as big as it is, a 2x2 is not going to be a problem at all because it curves, at least down on the bottom. And we'll deal with the top when I get to that point. It's way easier. Get a couple of screws in and hold it. And now what we can do is we can put all the screws in. This is the end cap, and it looks like 2x2s. Yeah, so 2x2s will work all the way around, because I can put them in here, and I can put them, so I'll do 2 more 2x2s on each side, and then we'll put the end cap on. So I've cut the pieces for the sides at the ends, and then I found a mistake that I made, is that when I cut the boards, I got this one the length of the bottom, and so the problem is that now that's going to have to be on the inside for the hinge. And so I don't have any more of this wood, or I would recut the piece. So I'm just going to go ahead and put it on as is, and it'll hold a telescope. But this isn't a cabinet, and so I don't need to make this super pretty. I just needed to protect my telescope. Now I put a block on the inside, so so that you can screw this to. Now the problem is this is just a little bit too long, so I'm going to drill this down and mark it, and then I'll put a countersink in, or I'll grind it off, one of the two. Now, to hold the telescope in place and have it so it doesn't flop around, I'm going to make a cradle for it. Now, the rim here, it goes at the end of the telescope, is the inside dimension here, and so the telescope itself is about another 1/8 inch smaller. So I can't effectively trace on the inside, but if I trace on the outside and then I line it with some soft material, then that soft material will take up the space here that would have been if I had done it the other way. So basically, I'm just going to put it here on this block because I need it off the bottom a little bit, and then just trace that. Make that line better. I think I'll just take it to my bandsaw and I'll cut this out. So I'll do that off camera and then come back. I've got my 2 blocks, and they're a little bit narrower than the space because I might need to slide this back and forth a little bit. Now, from a previous project, when I was doing the dew heater, I bought this neoprene. And so basically we just get a chunk like this. And then I just need to staple it on. So. All right. And then we just trim off what we don't need. And then we got ourselves a nice little soft cradle. Won't scratch the telescope. Now the next step is to position those blocks. Now if you look down in there, so I had to tilt the telescope just a little bit, and I would like to, of course, leave the focuser on. And then down here, this is where my guide scope goes. So I want it off. I don't want anything touching. So if you look, I don't know if the camera can pick it up, but this block is against the right-hand side. And then this one, you could probably do the same thing. Let's see. Yeah, that would probably be the best thing. So with that block up against tight, now you can see I got a gap over here, but I did that on purpose. See the gap? So now I know where to mount it. I'm going to mount it just to the right a little bit so that it shifts the telescope over so that the guide scope bracket there doesn't bang against the wood. I want nothing touching the wood. I just want the scope properly supported. Okay, so anyway, now I know what to do. Leave a little gap here on the left. I'll take the scope out and screw them in. Now the next thing is that I left some space in here on purpose. And so I've got some neoprene left. So I think what I'll do is I'll staple it like this and maybe tack it. Well, I guess if I went like that, that would work. And that'd be 3 layers. So you start about right like this. Okay, now I have a nice soft bumper, and the staples won't touch the telescope. Do the same on the other side. All right, first test with all the padding in. Pretty heavy scope. spin like this, and then we'll spin it. There we go. And that, what that'll do is that'll spin that down, and see, it misses. Just like that. Now it can't go side to side because it's in its cradle. And then end to end, it's got cushions. And so what I could do, I guess, is I've got some packing material I could put in before I put the lid on. And then I had one more thing. So now I could just put it in my motorhome like this. However, if it tipped over, we'd have a problem. So I've been thinking about how to solve that problem, and I have not quite figured it out yet, because if you put one on here, well, you're gonna have to have some way of attaching it and letting it go. Maybe what I could do, oh, I have an idea. Oh, I know what to do. So, I know exactly how to solve that problem. So you put it on the door, and when the door comes down, and then you have your locking mechanism, that presses down on the scope. Okay, I know how to solve that. I'll work on that. So I put a piece of weather stripping there, and then you take a block. Hard to do this while I'm holding the camera. Like this, you can see that that will be a nice little support, and then to attach it in the exact position, all I need to do is measure from here to here, and then transfer that from here to here, and then attach it. So I'll do that next. Right, now this one's done, and what I had to do here is I had to cut this off because of this Vixen bracket. And so now when this swings down, you can see that it goes on top. It does miss it. But now I've got two locations to hold that in place, one here and one here. So the next step is I need a latch. So let me figure that out. And then once I have a latch, I need some sort of handles. Now for the handles, I've got a layout line here, and when you're working with 1/2 inch, it's always a problem with the screws. And I don't want the screws protruding, and I don't want to grind them down, so what I'm going to do is just put a spacer on the outside, and then the screws will be just about right. Now I went down to the hardware store trying to get some latches. I wanted the spring over it, but they didn't have any, and then they just had like gate latches with padlocks and whatnot. And so what I decided to do is just, keep this simple. I only need to just keep it closed for just while I'm traveling down there. So I'm just going to put a block in right here, and then I'm going to put 2 screws, and then I'll just screw it in, and then when I get there I'll just unscrew it and be done with it. Now, right here, 2 screws. I'm going to pre-drill a little further. And then just go like this and then transport it. Simple. For nothing. So the only thing I had to buy was these two. I had the hinges from an old door. So, and then I used old wood, and then, but anyway, now it works, and I picked it up, and it's really not that bad. I thought that it was going to be difficult with the latches, but they're not. So if I want to move it, I just take these 2 screws out. As simple as that. Okay, just slide it in, and then these 2 clamp down on top of it, like that, and then just, you're done. Alright, let's see how much it is loaded. Oh, it's not that bad. So for a total cost of about $10, because I used materials, I now have a heavy-duty box to transport that very expensive telescope. So I'm pretty happy. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.